in welcoming the great form of 2021.
This class has actually been amazing. from day one because they all wanted to be here. But see, they don't get a picture when they come out, so they take a nice shot for the picture. And let's see what happens. This is one of the bigger classes.
Good morning again on this glorious day. Good morning. Thank you. It is a pleasure and indeed a privilege to welcome all gathered here, those who are remote throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico, the many who have tuned in from 6 continents, and all others from islands and other lands. At this moment, the world is literally at or focused on the great form of 2021. A special thank you to those who have been meeting, planning, sweating over the details of this complex operation since December. A special thanks to all the parents, especially those who had to quarantine in other countries before getting here. What an extraordinary expression of love for your children and this school. And I'm just going to ask right now the students to turn to the parents, whichever way, stand up and thank them. Welcome to the trustees and their spouses and partners who have joined us today. Welcome to our special honored guests. And I have a confession to make. There is a parent here who's always one I would call to if I needed an audible. And this is President of Massachusetts, former Congressman Martin Meehan. I always say to myself, if the speaker doesn't show up, I'll call him and I'll just say, just throw the ball, just come and give remarks. So to him, for the speech in his back pocket, thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our current board president, our friend, Ben Pine, and his lovely wife, Janet Pine. Ben Pine is a graduate of the form of 1977. And he and Janet are parents of 2 graduates, Gordon of the form of 2012 and Britton of the form of 2015. With a grandfather who graduated in 1908 and a father who also came to Groton, graduated around 1934. Few know Groton as well as the Pines. And it's the same thing on Mrs. Pine's family. So to them all, they are all about Groton, and we are honored to have you. Mr. Pine assumed his duties as president of the board in 2020. Over to you, Mr. Pine.
Thank you. Tempa, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. So I will say again, good morning. On behalf of my fellow trustees, I would like to welcome everyone here or online or wherever you may be in the world to the Groton School graduation of the form of 2021. Given the year we have all been through and challenges faced, how wonderful it is to be here on the circle to celebrate all of you. I will tell you that last August, none of us knew how many weeks of in-person learning we would be able to complete during the school year. Never mind whether it would be possible to have a graduation like this on campus. Yet through careful planning, testing, adherence by the entire community to all the protocols, each week passed by through the fall term, then again starting in January, and now through the spring. And we should be grateful to all those who made it possible to be here safely. So as we begin the formal ceremony this morning, I think we need to start with a few rousing thank yous, and I hope that I can list all of you here, including the graduating class. I always think, given how important our parents are, that it's not bad to thank them many times over for helping you through this journey. So if I could ask you to give one more rousing cheer to your parents and family who are here. Second, we need to acknowledge the faculty, staff, and in particular those who served as a guiding force in the task force for Mr. Macabella and us as trustees to plan every step of the way this year. They began their work in March of 2020 when the pandemic began and have yet to take a break. And finally, none of this would have happened ever without the leadership of Mr. and Mrs. Macabella. Working together, the faculty and staff under the leadership of the Macabellas found a way to open schools safely last September and keep it that way and in operation throughout this year. So please rise and give them all a rousing thank you. Finally, and very importantly today, we need to thank you, the Form of 2021, for your amazing leadership through all the challenges during this past school year. On many occasions, Mr. Macabella has told me and other trustees how you set the example of the whole school and showed true leadership. And as we all know, learning leadership is part of our mission, and you exemplified it this year. During an early chapel talk, Senior Prefect Walker Smith introduced a new word into our vocabulary, gratitude. Based on your exceptional leadership throughout this entire year, you have earned all of our full gratitude. So it is now time for us all to thank each of you. No, you can, yeah, that's fine. You can stay down. I remember my graduation 44 years ago as if it were yesterday, and I hope that 44 years or more from now that you will remember this day as well. Our graduation was a much smaller affair that took place between the chapel and the dining hall, yet it was no less special. So now that we are about to be graduates together, I have two thoughts for you. The first may seem obvious, but I want to mention it because sometimes we take it for granted. The friendships and bonds that one creates here really do last a lifetime. It may not always seem evident in the next few years, but I can tell you from experience, we have all made friends for life who will be there in good times and in challenging times, and I encourage all of you to remember that in the years ahead. For me personally, even though I may not have seen a classmate for 10 years or more, when we see each other, it is as if we are catching up and no time was between us. And we just don't talk about the old days. We talk about everything, and it's a fantastic feeling. Of course, as you know, the bonds go beyond your form to other forms, the faculty, staff, and certainly the headmaster. So please embrace, relish, and enjoy the friendships that you have built here, and I know they will stand you in good stead in all the years ahead. The second thought is a little more nuanced, but no less important, and revolves around the power of the word may. Not may as in the month just completed, but may as in an active verb around possibility and choice. The power of the word and this particular concept came to me when I was reading East of Eden by John Steinbeck in my early 20s. A good way through the book, there is a key discussion on the translation of a particular passage from the Bible and the difference between interpreting as thou shalt or thou mayest. In case you're worried, I promise that this is not an English or sacred studies class, nor would I ever be qualified to teach them. But What dawned on me when I read those pages 40 years ago was the opportunity of power that each of us has of choice, of making one's own decisions, and taking responsibilities for those decisions. It is also, to me at least, about the art of the possible. Not everything is predetermined. We may make our own way. I have found that in life that there is a lot you can or you should, or more likely the opposite, people telling you you can't or you shouldn't. We hear it all the time. You will never be able to do that. You should never consider that course or pursue that interest or hobby. Or my favorite, which became a personal rallying cry for me during my career, that is impossible. When someone says that particular phrase to me, it is like a red cape in front of a bull, and it becomes a challenge for me to figure out how to do it, how to make it possible. Have I been successful all of the time? No, of course not. But have I been successful the majority of the time? Yes, thankfully. And have I learned or grown no matter which way it turns out? Yes, absolutely. To me, the perspective of possibility goes back to the power of the word may and to making a decision to try. Some project, course of study, opportunity could be really difficult or challenging or new, but you may decide to try it. And then you may just find a creative solution that everyone else thought impossible. And who knows, you may be able to accomplish it. When I experience that myself or see it happen in others, it truly warms my heart. And I know that is how we can all grow no matter what age we are. While we are on the art of the possible, a related concept for me is the difference between looking at things from the perspective of a glass half empty versus a glass half full. When I personally look at things from the lens of a half empty glass, I feel constricted, more negative, usually stressed. Yet when I look at them through the lens of a glass half full, I think about the options, possibilities, and my creative juices start to flow. Good things tend to happen with an open mind and the perspective of possibility. While true creativity, innovation, and achievement always requires a ton of hard work, Michelangelo is purported to have said his art was 90% perspiration and 10% inspiration. I still remain a firm believer that it all starts and is also fueled by what any individual may decide to do and how that individual goes about doing it. And that perspective opens the door to endless opportunities, both big and small. So I am truly excited for all of you, for all the possibilities ahead of you, and all that you may decide to pursue. And I encourage you, as you leave Groton, to take all that you have learned, the friendships that you have built, the ongoing support of your families, and look at opportunities and challenges through the lens of a glass half full and with the open mind of possibility. Who knows what you may discover about the world around you as well as about yourself. Congratulations, go well, and the very best in all that you do.
Thank you so much, Ben. I will not utter those words "go well" until the end, otherwise there will be pandemonium. As you depart Groton as members of the Forum of 2021, walk tall and unbowed because you attended Groton School. In sports, music, and indeed in many other sectors, people admire and look up to elite athletes, musicians, composers, etc. Yet, when it comes to education, it has become fashionable to resort to a form of intellectual shaming when it comes to those who received an elite education. An elite institution is different from an elitist one. Elitism happens when individuals who, while not necessarily choosing to exclude others, do so often inadvertently due to an intentional lack of embrace of inclusion. Building elite institutions, on the other hand, is a choice, one of whose traits is to draw students of talent and promise from various demographics in the broadest sense of that word. Elite institutions advance learning beyond access to success by putting learners in the same room as talented teachers, whose worldview includes an embrace of talent from an equally broad demographic pool. When this magic happens, the learner is transformed into a scholar, because these elements provided the Groton embrace, if you will, the surest foundation of an elite education. At Groton, to move beyond the aforementioned access to today's celebration of success, we affirm 4 pillars that undergird this circle. These are scholarship, spirituality, service, and globalism. Now I'm going to go through one of them one by one. And if there is one that you have not accomplished, I will not say check. Scholarship, check. You will be hard-pressed to find many schools that accomplished as many in-person teaching days as you did. Spirituality, check. You look after and take care of each other in profound as well as in mundane ways. Service, check. Whether it was in mask wearing or wiping down benches after every class, you accomplished the greater good with distinction. Globalism, check. Never was globalism more in focus as when we had hybrid learning, or even a hybrid prize day, as we now have. Trustees, parents, faculty, staff, relatives, and friends bore witness as you partook in this fountain of oasis of hope called Groton School. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the sixth form class speaker, Princess Beatrice Osaritin Ehinomen Agbe. Princess.
Can y'all hear me good? Okay. Students, teachers, faculty, staff, family members, guests, alumni, trustees, leaky faucets, functional faucets, the Forum of 2021, and anyone who is watching from wherever they may be, the word is tumultuous. Tumultuous like the plates, baseball cage, and tent that flew across the circle in a thunderstorm in late October. Tumultuous like the scramble to test hundreds of students, faculty, and faculty families each week this year. Tumultuous like the 2, 3, 4, or 5 years some of us have spent here, learning how to live. Tumultuous, yes, we know tumultuous. Us being here, under this tent together, stands testament to the fact that we have stared the word down in the past year, looked it in the eye. To the Forum of 2021, first, congratulations, we finally made it. And second, I want to thank you all for choosing me to be your prize day speaker. I'm not gonna lie when I say that I was a little bit shocked when the results were announced. I mean, had I, on occasion, practiced giving this speech to an adoring crowd in my bathroom mirror? Yes. But who hasn't? For the past 5 years, I've allowed this possibility to remain just that, a possibility. One that I only whispered to myself as a daydream, a distraction from a bad day. But you chose me. I thought that maybe I had done enough talking here for the past 5 years. Thought that maybe you're sick of the sound of my voice, but you all have a knack of seeing magic within me when I fail to see it within myself. You have given me the gift of the last word. I thank you. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name's Beatrice, but I go by B. Not Beat Rice, just B. I am 17 years old, I am from New York City, and I am a poet. Over the years, I have spoken to my formates and the wider Groton community of romance, of love, of how bodies are like flowers, of the magic that lives in my bloodline, and more recently, of the dangers of perpetuating binaries. Today, my formates have trusted me to do a scary thing. They have asked me to stare headfirst into the end and make a bold declaration about this ember of our lives that is about to flicker out. My job, as the Prize Day speaker, is twofold. One, to assure my peers that the time we spent here was not useless, and two, to remind them that we are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. But here's a secret. I am terrified. I spent so much of this past week crying and worrying about the end that I've worked myself into a stress-induced cold. The life that I've built for myself here, the lives that we've built for ourselves here, they are so specific to this environment that there will never be a community like this one again, friends as close as these ones again, or a school that micromanages us like this one again. You all know parts of me that my parents, my family, and the real world have yet to see. I'm afraid that once I leave, the Beatrice here that you all have borne witness to will disappear. I'm afraid that she won't survive the tumultuous world waiting beyond those gates. Tumultuous like the ongoing effects of police brutality and racism. Tumultuous like the rioters who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Tumultuous like the millions dead or dying at the hands of this virus. Tumultuous like the rise in Asian American violence. Tumultuous like the impending doom of climate change, or the continued struggle for queer rights, or America's deep political divides. I don't want to know tumultuous. But ultimately, this desire to stop time so that I can cling on to what I know is just the natural human reflex against change. No matter what I say, we're going to get our diplomas, throw our hats into the wind, then drive off and have a good, sober time. We're going to graduate. Meanwhile, the teachers will head off to faculty meetings. The trustees will go on making budget calculations and decisions concerning the well-being of the school. The students will eventually return, work hard, complain about working hard, then continue to work hard some more. The fifth formers will become seniors. The fourth formers will become fifth formers. The third, fourth, the second, third, and Mr. Macubella will continue to make awkward chemistry jokes in all of his public speaking events. All of Groton's tragedies and successes will go on, as they have for the past 136 years, without us. And eventually, everyone that we know here will leave, and this school will become unrecognizable to us. The form of 2021 will soon become history. The only palpable evidence of our existence are name plaques on the schoolroom walls. The scariest and most exciting part about graduating is coming to terms with this fact, that we are small parts of Groton's existence. Our time here is equivalent to a second, maybe a minute, of a larger institutional timeline. When Groton students in the year 2100 look back on school history, The only characteristic that will differentiate our forum from the rest will be the pandemic. In the long run, we will be remembered as the seniors who lived through COVID. In the long run, I think we might do the same. But we're more than that. If I were to speak to you all now of our legacy, of the poetry of our time together, I would have to speak to you all of Sunday, May 2nd, 2021. It was morning brunch, and a group of us were sitting in the senior section. Because those tables are so long, we were having this sort of dining hall conversation in which there were 3 different discussions going on. On one end, Edwina, Ty, and I were harmonizing to James Charles's rendition of Bring Me a Little Water Now. In the middle, Leah and Angelica were worrying over their unfinished U.S. history research papers. And on the end, Zoe Colorado Mansfeld, Zoe Park, Hollis Maxon, Gracie Mumford, Harriet Winter, and Angela Way were talking about how much they missed sit-down dinner. For reference, sit-down is a Groton School tradition that takes place during the fall and spring terms of the school year. Once a week, the community dresses up and gathers for a formal meal. The tables are randomly assigned so that students and faculty are exposed to as many members of the community as possible, giving them a chance to connect with people who they might never talk to otherwise. This year, sit-down dinner was one of the many traditions that were destroyed with COVID. Now, personally, out of all the things that got lost, I can't say that I missed this compulsory dress-up dinner too much. I actually vaguely remember briefly stepping outside of my discussion to make fun of them for the intensity of their conversation. Like, come on, all this talk and complaining, and for what? It's not like these students were gonna bring sit-down back or anything. They did indeed bring sit-down back. They missed this tradition so much that they decided in the span of that brunch to host a sixth form only sit-down dinner. They didn't know where it would be. They didn't know how they were going to go about getting the decorations necessary to make up the space. They only knew that they were going to make this event happen by dinner time of that same day. Harriet sent out the email. Dear sixth formers, it wrote, cool people dress up for dinner tonight and go to the 100 house side of the dining hall to eat at 5:45. See you then, heart emoji. I remember reading this email in the schoolhouse with a group of other people and getting stressed out by this impromptu gathering. We had all already planned out our day, deciding that we would go through the motions of this Sunday like we did all the others, alone, acting in the interests of our own schedules. But we showed up, as we often do. And when I arrived, a little late because getting to places on time is always a struggle for me, I was greeted with a formal dinner set up better than anyone I had ever known. Picture it. This team of students had taken tables they found in the fives courts and covered them up with tablecloths found in the CPAC. They topped each table with flowers that they had picked from bushes all around campus. They put said flowers in mason jars provided by Mrs. Hamlin, and they connected 6 speakers together to provide the ambient music. And as we spoke under the bloom of the May trees, with the petals falling down on our plates, and with castaways playing softly underneath it all, I remember looking around and taking it all in. We had interrupted this day to create community. We had interrupted this space and transformed it into a place where something beautiful and new could happen. For the first time in over a year, we brought sit-down back. The best part about this story is that it exemplifies one of our form's greatest qualities. We are able to carve spaces for ourselves, places where we can just exist in the midst of tumultuous landscapes. Like how those students scraped together supplies from all over campus to create that sit-down dinner in one of the more inconvenient spots, right in front of the dining hall entrance. We have brought our presence to this school, which was not built for the likes of us. Because the fact of the matter is that this institution was not made with people like me in mind. When Endicott Peabody first dreamt up the idea of Groton School, he advertised it to one demographic: straight, cisgendered, rich, white, Christian boys. Not for students of color, not for women or those who identify outside of the gender binary, not for members of the queer community, not for international students, and not for those from varying socioeconomic statuses. And yet here I am, the antithesis of all that the school was originally intended to be. How we made the jump from being an exclusive institution to one that houses a more inclusive and diverse student body has been a decades-long arc, one which our form has been an integral part of. Institutions like Groton will always struggle with the tension of balancing an elitist past with a present and a future that demand retribution. As students here, our form has struggled with what it means to be a part of that tension. What does it mean for us to study in the schoolhouse under the bus of all white men, eat in a dining hall under the watch of all the previous white male headmasters, sneak into the teacher's lounge in the Gardner room while looking up at the portraits of old white men, past the added portraits of them in the president's hallway, the teacher's hall of fame, the English wing, the history wing? What does it mean for me and other marginalized students to exist in a school that wasn't made for us? What does it mean to be a student at Groton and promote values of inclusion and globalism when we are connected to such a troubled and tumultuous past? When I arrived on this campus for second form in the fall of 2016, way back in the olden days of Obama's presidency, the administration was just beginning to ask these tough questions of its own self. Groton feminists were known then as the Groton Girls Alliance. Diversity and inclusion wasn't holding school-wide community gatherings 3 times a term, and the school was having minimal conversations about sexuality and gender. So the form of 2021 came just in time. We have never failed to ask these tough questions of our school. We noticed the white men on the walls, the holes in our education, and the lack of space this campus had to hold the diverse entirety of us. Like Zoe Park said in her chapel talk, we were the ones pointing out the leaky faucets in our community, even when others struggled to do so. We examined the ways in which our exclusionary past functions into our lives here today. We asked questions of everything that was handed to us. Questions like, why don't we read more books by marginalized peoples in English class? Why don't we spend more time on non-Western civilizations and world history? Why don't we learn about the Tulsa Massacre, COINTELPRO, or the AIDS crisis? Why don't we have an all-gender dorm on campus for students who identify outside of the gender binary? Why do we have to walk boy-girl at Prize Day? Why don't we have more discussions surrounding mental health, sex education, racial justice? Why? One would think that, with time, we would get tired of bugging the administration. That we would realize the enormity of our task, the amount of work that would need to be done to undo a decades-long exclusionary history, and give up. But here's the elegant truth. Our Groton education has been equipping us with the knowledge and vocabulary necessary to ask these questions of our school. As we grew here, we took what we learned in the classroom and brought it into our efforts towards building a better community. And by this statement, I don't mean that we have all the history, facts, math equations, and books we've read memorized and ready to be cited at a moment's notice. Or maybe some of us do, I don't know. What we have taken from these classrooms is the ability to discuss, empathize, and listen to one another. Discuss, empathize, and listen. Let me say it one more time. Discuss, empathize, and listen. We do not always agree. Our form is actually very rarely on the same page. We are divided on a number of issues, the list of which is so vast and expansive that if I were to get into it, we would be here all day. But when we speak to one another with respect, when we speak to one another with an awareness that we all come from different backgrounds, when we speak to one another not with the intent to argue, but to listen, we come to agreements on how we can best make a change that suits everyone. If only our politicians could do the same. And because we have asked the hard questions and taken on the work of confronting a tumultuous past, because we have discussed, we have empathized, and we have listened, we are now beginning to see the impact we have had here. This year, we have changed the way we walk out of chapel on Prize Day, so that by walking in alphabetical order over the traditional boy-girl pattern, we can include non-binary students. The ginormous queer community in this form has made it so that more students feel comfortable coming out here. And we are going to graduate on the same day that this school has introduced 4 new non-white male bus to the schoolroom. We have truly given this school a tumultuous time. I said earlier that the job of the Prize Day speaker is twofold. One, to assure my peers that the time we spent here was not useless, and two, to remind them that we are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. I have done number one. Our forum's legacy is one that will be remembered as speaking in direct opposition to the original legacy of this school. In this campus of elitist histories and portraits of old, problematic white men, we have found space to exist. I have found space to exist, as myself, in full. So on to number two. We are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. We are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. We are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world? Last time I checked, our forum is having a tumultuous time getting out of bed this morning. I am still terrified. My stress-induced cold is still here. When I close my eyes and try to imagine for you all what comes next, the far-off future still looks unclear. I still don't want to know tumultuous. Number two means letting go of the specific lies we have lived here. Number two means acknowledging that we have the power and agency to turn building entrances into dinner venues. Number two means that we are ready to go out into the tumultuous world, one rife with racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, bigotry, and hatred, and dare to be our full, authentic selves in the midst of it all. Number two, number two, number two. But in writing this speech, I have come to understand that if you've done number one, number two isn't hard at all. Because if we were able to step onto this campus and radically shake the very foundations upon which it was built, I have full faith that we will be able to walk into the tumultuous world as our full, authentic selves and do some good. And if you still doubt me, then I have another word for you. The word tumultuous applies to everyone in this tent. This next one is just for the forum of 2021. It is how we should be remembered in history. The word for you, forum of 2021, is beautiful. Beautiful like the speeches of conviction that were just given over the past 2 weeks. Beautiful like the sunsets we have witnessed in our time here. Beautiful like the senior portraits Ty and Luke took of all of us this past term. Beautiful like Edwina and Angelica's step team. Beautiful like Thomas Dempsey's theatrical rendition of a scene from The Notebook. Beautiful like Jane Park's voice during chapel postludes. Yuan Ning's set designs for theater productions. Janice Jai's fits. Alex Carr's TikToks. Zoe CM's experiments as a woman in STEM. Angela Way's paintings. Claire Holding's dance parties in our rooms. Or like Caroline Drapeau in that dress during the school production of Legally Blonde. Beautiful like you all are right now, dressed up in your Prize Day outfits, looking like birds ready to fly. Beautiful like the dinner we had that day in front of the dining hall, underneath the May blossoms of spring, Beautiful, yes, we know beautiful. And because we have embraced the brilliant implications of its magic, we can know that we are smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. People of this tent, of these tents, if you're going to remember us as anything, remember us for this word. Remember us for our ability to create community and belonging in a space that didn't historically deem it so. Remember us because we have exemplified the sum total of our parts. We are loud, we are big, we are black, we are white, we are brown, we are Asian, we are Latinx, we are queer, we are boys, we are girls, we are non-binary, we are the tumultuous form of 2021. We are beautiful. You, sitting there, are beautiful. I love you all very dearly. Thank you, and congratulations.
smart, capable, and ready to take on the world. That is beautiful chemistry. Thank you, Princess B. Now I'm going to say a few words about the senior prefects before I turn things over to the prizes. Grace Mumford. Gracie is one of those student leaders who can be summed up in 3 words: a class act. Not only does she bring out the best in people, but she also does the best for all those around her. It is rare to possess this trait, as well as the dose of humility and thoughtfulness she maintains in her interactions. Her thoughtfulness and deep reflection were on full display on the ferry from Robben Island after visiting the cell that Nelson Mandela occupied as a prisoner. She came over to me to say, "Wouldn't it be great to have a bust of Nelson Mandela in our schoolroom?" I conveyed her message to the Board of Trustees, and today it has come to pass. Thank you, Gracie, for your lasting impact on the circle. Walker Smith. Walker gave the first student chapel talk of the year. He expressed gratitude to all who were responsible for opening in-person teaching and learning. And in so doing, he set the tone for gratitude. Quoting his beloved mother, he introduced gratitude into our lexicon, and it has now stuck. Even the board president talks about gratitude. There you are, folks. In Walker, we have a born leader who's also motivated by his faith. I sat in awe as he gave a eulogy in front of thousands who had gathered to bid farewell to our beloved Jane Harrell. Jane would have graduated along with this special form, and I believe she's looking down and flashing her signature smile of happiness for her beloved class. Thank you, Walker, for leading with distinction. Your letter of gratitude you wrote me is in my top drawer where from time to time I take it out to read when I need some inspiration. The Charles Lanier Appleton Prize is awarded to 2 members of the 6th form who have greatly served the school. The form of 2021 honorees are Grace Mumford and Walker Smith. The Asmal Gul Hassan form of 1993 Circle Voice Journalism Prize acknowledges outstanding leadership in creating, editing, and producing the school's newspaper. It goes to 2 students, Derek Hu and Zoe Colorado Mansfeld. The Tronic Award is given in honor of Michael G. Tronic and is awarded to members of the 6th form who have made especially good use of the library resources and shown a strong interest in the life of the mind. These 6th formers are B. Agbi and Zoe Park. The Bishop Julius Artwood Literature and History Prize is given by the late Right Reverend Julius Artwood to the best scholar in the combined fields of history and literature, and is awarded to Zoe Colorado Mansfeld. The Butler Prize for Excellence in English is given by Mrs. Gilbert Butler and is awarded to B. Agbe. The Perry History Prize is given by Mrs. Eliza Endicott Perry to the best scholar in the field of history. This year's winner is Trey Whitehead. The George Livingston Nichols Prize for the best essay on a historical subject is awarded to Magnus Miller. The Rogers V. Scudder Classics Prize is given in memory of Roger Scudder, a distinguished teacher of classics at Groton and a beloved member of this community. This prize goes to Sophia Wu. The Franklin D. Roosevelt Debating Prize is given in memory of Franklin D. Roosevelt, form of 1900, by W. Averill Harriman, form of 1909. This year's two winners are Anuj Agarwal and Samath Agrawal. The Endicott Peabody Memorial Prize is given in memory of the Reverend Endicott Peabody by the Sixth Form of 1945 for excellence in the field of religion and ethics. This prize is awarded to Yuan Ning Chang. The Isaac Jackson Memorial Prize is awarded to the best mathematics scholar in the upper school. This prize goes to Nico Bowden. The Bertrand B. Hopkins Environmental Sciences Prize is given by the form of 1948. It is awarded annually to a student who has demonstrated outstanding achievements in environmental studies. This year's student is Zoe Colorado Mansfeld. The Thorpe Science Prize is given by Mrs. Warren Thorpe to members of the sixth form who have been the most successful in developing an appreciation of the spirit and meaning of science. The sixth former is Samarth Agrawal. The World Language Prize goes to two students, Grace O. and Shane Denon. The Anita Andres Rogerson Dance Prize goes to Janice Jai. The Hudson Music Prize is given by the Friends of William Clark Hudson, form of 1956, to show the recognition of outstanding effort and progress in music during the school year. This prize goes to two students, Kate Clark and Nathan Jang. The Choir Cup, established in 1915, is awarded annually to the chorister showing greatest improvement in musical growth, in sight reading, and vocal technique. This year's award goes to two choristers, Nicole Lee Heberling and Jane Park. The photography prize goes to Luke Benedict. The Reverend Frederick R. Kellogg Upper School Art Prize is given in his memory in recognition of distinguished work in art. This prize goes to Janice Jai. The Dennis Crowley Drama Prize is given by Todd C. Patel's form of 2001 to a member of the sixth form who has made the greatest contribution to the theater program. This student is Caroline Drapeau. The Reginald Fink Jr. Medal is given by the sixth form of 1928 in memory of First Lieutenant Reginald Fink Jr. and is awarded to a member of the sixth form who has shown in athletics qualities of perseverance, courage, and unselfish sportsmanship. This year's honor goes to Ronan John Doherty. The Cornelia Emery Frothingham Athletic Prize is given by her parents and awarded to a member of the sixth form who has demonstrated all-around athletic ability and has shown exemplary qualities of leadership and sportsmanship. This prize goes to Cassidy Thibodeau. The Elizabeth and Marjorie Peabody Award is given to a member of the sixth form, other than a school prefect, whose contributions to the community demonstrate sensitivity, strength of character, leadership, and integrity. This year's winner is Zoe Colorado Mansfeld. The William V. Larkin Form of 1972 Award is given to the Groton student who best exemplifies courage and perseverance in meeting a challenge or overcoming adversity. This prize is awarded to Edwina Polinis. The final award, the Carol and John King Hodges Prize, is given in memory of Carol Hodges, form of 1905, and John King Hodges, form of 1910. In recognition of her prodigious talent and the generosity with which she shares it, I would like to honor Zoe Colorado Mansfeld. Now, I would like to introduce our distinguished Prize Day speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, journalist, and author Richard Stengel. During his time at the State Department, Mr. Stengel was responsible for department communications from the podium and beyond. He led the expansion of the department's digital footprint, the modernizing of all embassies' websites, and pioneered the department's use of social media. As Undersecretary, Mr. Stengel also led and directed the department-wide effort to counter the global rise in disinformation. Prior to his tenure at the State Department, Mr. Stengel served as editor of Time magazine for 7 years, overseeing all print, digital, tablet, and marketing functions for the Time brand. Before assuming the role of editor, Mr. Stengel had been a long-time writer and editor for Time, having written more than 25 cover stories for the magazine and serving as managing editor of Time.com. From 1992 through 1994, Mr. Stengel collaborated with Nelson Mandela on the South African leader's autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. Mr. Stengel later wrote several other books, including the New York Times bestseller, Mandela's Way, about his experience working with Mandela. A native of New York, Mr. Stengel is a graduate of Princeton University, where he played on the 1975 NIT winning basketball team. After graduating from Princeton, he won a Rhodes Scholar to Oxford and studied English and history at Christ Church, Oxford. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Stengel.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You're all ready to go home, and I haven't even started yet. So class of 2021, sixth formers, you look beautiful to me too, even though I can't see you. And I also just want to pay my respects to the parents. I relate to them. It's been a tumultuous year for everybody. And you guys, the students, the class of 2021, have learned a lot of lessons. The problem is you don't really quite know what they are yet. You'll figure that out as you go along. But in a strange way, you're guinea pigs of the 21st century. You've lived in a way and had to deal with things that very few people have had to deal with. And you have learned a lot of lessons. And you've probably achieved a lot of grit. And you're also smart, capable, and ready to take on the world, I'm sure. That's my last reference to your speech, though, Beatrice. Okay. Temba, thank you for that very kind introduction. You've had secretaries of state speak here before, so Undersecretary of State doesn't sound that impressive. But the reason I'm here, of course, is to talk about Nelson Mandela. I love South Africans. In fact, I'm married to one. She's sitting over there, like Temba. And as Temba mentioned, I did work with Mandela on Long Walk to Freedom. And I spent about a year in South Africa talking to him every day. We accumulated about 72 hours of tapes to use for the creation of that book. And I came back to New York, where I was still a writer at the time, to work on it. And the only problem was we didn't have an ending yet. Because while we were working on the book, he was also running for president of South Africa, trying to prevent the country from falling into civil war, and trying to create the first democratic South African constitution and election. So I realized we needed to get to the ending of the story. So I managed to get an assignment to go down to cover the South African election. And I went to a place called, which is now known as KwaZulu-Natal, where Nelson Mandela wasn't very popular. There was a lot of violence. In fact, all of his aides told him he shouldn't go down there at all. But he's Nelson Mandela. He wanted to be president of all the people. So I had flown down there ahead of him, and he was coming down in a tiny propeller plane with just 2 seats for him and his bodyguard. And his bodyguard was a guy named Mike, who I'm not even sure had ever been on an airplane before. So I was waiting at the airport for him to come down. And while I was in that little kind of private room, an official from the airport came to me and said, "I just want to let you know that one of the propellers in the plane has stopped working. And normally, this isn't a problem. Planes can land quite easily that way. But out of an abundance of caution, we're coating the runway with foam, and we're bringing the local fire engines here." So I nodded, a little bit concerned. And I sat there waiting, and I went out as the plane was landing, and sure enough, it landed fine. And Mike and Mandela came off, and right next to that airplane was a busload of Japanese tourists who were leaving to fly back to Johannesburg. And if you know Nelson Mandela, you know that it is irresistible for him to have to go and shake hands with every member of that bus and pose for pictures. So while he was doing that, I was in the waiting room, and Mike came in, and I think he was still trembling. And I asked him what happened, and he explained that during the flight, Mandela was reading a newspaper. He loves reading newspapers. And he tapped Mike on the knee, and he said, "Mike, you might want to tell the pilot that the propeller is not working." So Mike looked at, you'll fill in all the expressions on my face, right? Well, so Mike's eyes got wide. He went to see the pilot. The pilot said, "Yes, we know," explained about the fire engines and the foam. And Mike went back, took a seat, and explained to Mandela. And he said Mandela just nodded, thanked him, and went back to reading his newspaper. So Mike said the only thing that kept him sane on the plane was that he would look at Mandela, who was calmly reading the paper like he was commuting into the office that morning. So that's the story. Mandela finished shaking hands with all the Japanese tourists. He came through the waiting room. He picked me up. We got into the back of his armored BMW to go to the rally, which was the plan. The doors closed, the windows shut. He leaned over to me and said, "Man, I was terrified up there." So over the weeks and months that I had worked with him, he had on many occasions told me that he was afraid. He was afraid when he ran away to Johannesburg. He was afraid when he first started studying at a university. He was afraid when he went underground to launch the military wing of the ANC. He was afraid when he was sentenced to prison. He was afraid that he was going to be assaulted. And I think one day I asked a stupid question like, "You're Nelson Mandela, how could you be afraid?" And he looked at me like I was crazy, and he said, "Richard, it would be irrational not to be afraid." This was an enormous lesson, because what Mandela is saying is there is no courage without fear. If you're not afraid of doing something, then maybe you're crazy. It's only the fear that you have to overcome to do it. You know, during all of these commencement speeches now, people are saying this line that's become sort of a cliche. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Well, he would laugh at that. The fear is actually something that helps you. And the courage comes in overcoming it and not letting it stop you from doing something that you know you need to do. And the other lesson of that was he wasn't afraid to say that he was afraid. In our world of sometimes authoritarian leaders who don't ever admit mistakes, saying that you're afraid is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. That was only one of his tenets of leadership. And he was, in fact, a student of leadership. When he was 12, a little bit younger than you, his father died. And his father was a hereditary chief. And he was then raised by the king of the Tembu tribe in the Transkei, where Temba is from. And I won't try to do the elaborate clicks that are necessary to describe Mkwekwazeni. But Mandela was raised in this royal village. And he studied the king for signs of leadership. And one of the things that he noticed was the king, in any meeting of the village or of his elders, was always the last to speak. He listened and empathized to what everyone had to say. And he spoke last, and then he summarized what everyone had said and tried to find some consensus. That was his style of leadership. I saw him do that over and over again. So when I used to go down with him to the Transkei, where he built a house that's very close to the Kunu, the place where he was born, and we used to take early morning walks in the hillside there. And when I say early morning, I really mean early, 4:30 or 5 a.m. And we were walking through a hillside one morning, and he stopped and said to me, "Richard, have you ever herded sheep?" I'm from New York City. I've never herded sheep before. And he said, "You don't guide them from the front. You lead them from the back. You make them think that the direction that you want them to go in is the direction they want to go in. That is the way real people lead. It's not banging on the table and saying, me first." Now, I mentioned that he was the son of a chief, a hereditary chief. And I think Temba was talking about the fact that Groton is an elite school. Well, you know who else went to an elite school? Nelson Mandela. He went to a very fancy prep school for young African boys, and then he went to an even more exclusive place called Fort Hare, which is so exclusive that Temba's grandfather actually taught there and knew Mandela well. But the truth is, and educators never tell you this, is that your real education begins when you leave school. And Nelson Mandela ran away from his school to Johannesburg because the king wanted to arrange a marriage for him, and he thought the girl was in love with someone else. So he ran away to Johannesburg. And he became a night watchman in a mine. And he was treated miserably under apartheid. All young black men were. And this changed him. This began his real education. Because the injustice that he experienced, he was a man of great confidence, that if I, Nelson Mandela, are being treated like this, subhuman, what does that mean for all of my people? And something triggered in him, and that began his struggle, which was his struggle for freedom for his people. The thing that really molded him was a school that is even more elite than Groton, even more elite than Fort Hare. It's very, very hard to get into. Some people, and he among them, called it the university. It's known as Robben Island, which is the prison where he spent 20 of his 27 years. Some of you have been there. And what Robben Island did was, it was sort of a crucible that ripped away all of the extraneous parts of his character and then kept what was pure. And for my book, our book, I wanted to figure out what that was. What were the lessons that he learned in Robben Island? And he's not an introspective man, and I used to ask him, how was the man who went to prison in 1964 different from the man who emerged in 1990? He hated that question. But then one day, in exasperation, I asked it, and he said, I came out mature. Now, a mature human being is actually quite a rare thing, as you'll discover in life. And what did he mean by mature? He meant another adjective that he used all the time, measured. Someone who had self-control. Someone who thought before he acted. And someone who did something else that a lot of people today think is a flaw, someone who can change their mind. I remember asking Mandela about why, when he came out of prison, the ANC, his organization, abandoned its commitment to socialism and the government owning all of the mines and the companies. And he said, I looked around me and the world had changed. When circumstances change, I change my mind. What do you do? As you guys are about to go off to college, or you're off to work, whatever, be prepared to not only learn, but be prepared to change your mind. Don't stick with things just because, someone else told you that's the right thing, or because you believed it before. Be open-minded. He made a distinction between, and it's often made in philosophy and social science and politics, between principles and tactics. And I used to ask him why, just before he went to prison in 1962, he became the head of something called Umkhonto we Sizwe, the Spear of the Nation, the military wing of the ANC. And I said, how did you make that decision? And he said, we weren't making any headway in the freedom struggle. And for me, nonviolence, unlike for Gandhi, another new bust in the chapel, unlike for Gandhi, where nonviolence was a principle, to me it was a tactic. And I would use any tactic to get to my goal, which is freedom for my people. So again, what I would say to you before you go out into the world, as smart and capable and ready for it as you are, figure out what your principles are, the things that you really care about, and then stick to them, because then everything else is a tactic. Go forth, class of 2021. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much. And now you can have lunch. Isn't that the next thing? Thank you very much. Okay.
You are going to have those diplomas for lunch, right? We have 3 students who are attending Prize Day virtually, and they also heard the wonderful remarks, including those sterling remarks from Mr. Stengel. One of them is actually in South Africa, and 2 are in China, in Nanjing and Shanghai. So we are going to start the ceremony with those 3 students. Yiki Isabel Kai, summa cum laude. Come on, technology, I want to see her face. All right, they wanted to keep going. Yue Elbereth Chen, summa cum laude. Zenande Kwako Mdludlu. Congratulations, Isabel, Elbereth, and Zenande. Now the moment we've been waiting for. Are you ready, President? Yes. Anuj Mohanka Agarwal, summa cum laude. Beatrice Osaritin Ehinomen Agbi, magna cum laude. Samarth Sanjay Agrawal, summa cum laude. Sila Emma Barrett. Noah Philip Petrov Bey, summa cum laude. Luke Kodiak Perini Benedict, magna cum laude. Jack Bolton. Nicholas Alan Bowden, summa cum laude. Alexander James Brown, magna cum laude. Tate Kincaid Bergen, cum laude. Ty Jordan Campbell, magna cum laude. Yuan Ning Chang, magna cum laude. Catherine Jane Clark, summa cum laude. Zoe Liesel Colorado Mansfeld, summa cum laude. Charles Hambleton Dane, magna cum laude. Thomas Joseph Dempsey. Shane Michael Denin, summa cum laude. Olivia Maxwell Dillon, cum laude. Ronan John Doherty, cum laude. Caroline Helena Drapeau, summa cum laude. Margaret Mohead Ferris, cum laude. Anna Beatrice Ferronato Pimentel, summa cum laude. Aiden Ayong Garcia. Joshua Xavier Lincoln Golden, cum laude. Lily Alexandra Gordon, cum laude. Claire Kenny Holding, summa cum laude. Derek Hu, magna cum laude. Andrew Ruiming Huo, magna cum laude. Addison Litchfield Hyde, cum laude. Alexandra Lynn Carr. Kaylee Alice Keegan, cum laude. Lillian Kemchinsky, magna cum laude. George De La Osa Kingsland, magna cum laude. Andre Berrigan Sriparatham Klema, magna cum laude. Annabelle Ziwei Lee, summa cum laude. Nicole Lee Heberling, magna cum laude. Nev Catherine Lai, cum laude. Hanling Liao, magna cum laude. Robert Collins Long, cum laude. Loxie Amanda Lopez, magna cum laude. Hollis Benjamin Maxon, cum laude. Ainsley Britt McKeon, cum laude. Daniel Martin Meehan. Magnus William Miller, magna cum laude. Spencer Andrew Miller, magna cum laude. William Molson, magna cum laude. Grace Emma Mumford, summa cum laude. Lola Gabriela Munigan, summa cum laude. Michaela B. Murin, magna cum laude. Kiara Ellen Nevad, magna cum laude. Ashling O'Connell, magna cum laude. Christina Mary Olhafen, magna cum laude. Yuhyun Grace O, magna cum laude. and Victoria O'Leary, magna cum laude. Roshan Palakal, summa cum laude. Jane Park, summa cum laude. Zoe Milson Song Park, cum laude. Angelica Para. Jack David Pedreski. Emily Elizabeth Paulus, magna cum laude. Edwina Christine Polines, cum laude. Leah Gabrielle Potel, summa cum laude. Cornelia Fish Porter, cum laude. Samuel Minton Quigley, cum laude. Anthony Vincent Romano, cum laude. Nathaniel Donald Selender, summa cum laude. Arun Jamal Sanko, magna cum laude. Catherine Marie Sapinski, cum laude. Eric Jaden Chevron, magna cum laude. Timothy Walker Smith, cum laude. Alexi Gail Stannard. Madeline Buell Son, cum laude. Cassidy Lee Ann Thibodeau, magna cum laude. Russell Emery Thorndike, cum laude. Edith Sturtevant Torres, summa cum laude. Wilson Clark Torres, magna cum laude. Grace Diane Travis, summa cum laude. Michael Edward Walsh. Chandler King Wardrobe, magna cum laude. Foster Otis Waxman, cum laude. Angela Way, summa cum laude. Charles Thomas Whitehead III, summa cum laude. Harriet Reese Winterer, cum laude. Hannah Savage Wise, magna cum laude. Helene Delahant Worthington, magna cum laude. Yizhen Sophia Wu, summa cum laude. Nicholas Wilman Wyman. Ewan Harvey, summa cum laude. Janice Tianjen Zhai, summa cum laude. Nathan Siwan Zhang, summa cum laude. Lucas Yijiang Zhang, summa cum laude. This concludes the formal presentation of diplomas. And if you thought you had heard the last of chemistry jokes, at baccalaureate, I implored you to seek positivity. Or as we say in chemistry, go and become nucleophiles. The world needs you to do the greater good. Humanity needs you. Go in peace, nucleophiles. Hamba kahle is a common phrase from KwaZulu-Natal. Hamba kahle in English means go well.
One last thing. Hello, hello.
All right, students, graduates. Wow, that really feels good. Mr. Anderson has a few words.
One last thing. Let's please have the sixth form line up going down the middle aisle, and the faculty will come by and elbow bump you, and then you can continue your celebrations. Thank you. Starting with Mr. Macabella.